Hello again, my little mathematicians. We're going to be focusing on page 2 in your packet. If they gave you a net drawing of a shape, can you name what solid or 3D shape that originally was? Okay. So just to go over some vocab with you. The faces of solids is the individual surface of a solid figure. Okay. The bases, think of it as the what it stands on. Okay. And if it's a prism, it'll have two bases. If it's a pyramid, it'll only have one base. And remember, pyramids have triangular sides, prisms have rectangular sides. Both of them, whether it's a pyramid or a prism, will have the same number of side faces as the number of sides that your base shape has. And if that seems like you threw the word sides out there way too much, Miss Love, well, let's go ahead and look at some of these drawings, and then maybe it'll help that make a little bit more sense. Okay, so for this very first example right here, I take a look at it and I notice that there's no rectangles anywhere. So because there's no rectangles anywhere, I know it's not a prism. I know it's a pyramid. So a pyramid means it only has one base. So I need to find that one base shape, and then that's going to make up the first name. Okay, well, let's just say that this is the base because they're all triangles. So I'm going to say it's a triangular pyramid, and double check yourself if you're right. So if this is my one base, well, my base has 1, 2, 3 sides, so there should be 3 triangles coming off of it. There sure is, so I know that that's the correct name. Now this one has a bunch of rectangles coming off of it, so I bet that's a prism. And how many rectangles are coming off? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which means my base is probably a 6-sided figure. Yep, it sure was. It was that hexagon right there. Okay, so it's a hexagonal prism, but prism means 2 bases. Oh, here you go. There's my other base up there. So prism, 2 bases, and then the base name, however many sides that figure has, it's a 6-sided figure, so it's a hexagon. There should be 6 rectangles coming off of it. Okay. Then this one, it's, rectangle, so I'm going to say prism. Okay, so they're all the same shape, so let's just say these two are my bases. Okay, and my base has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. So 1, 2, 3, 4 rectangles coming off of it. It doesn't have 4 rectangles coming off of it. So it can't be a prism then because it doesn't match. So then you're like, oh, it's a pyramid. No, it can't be a pyramid because there's no triangular sides. So when this happens, this means that this is not a solid. Okay, you couldn't unfold this, or you couldn't fold this back up and make a 3D shape, because if it were, it's not possible to do a pyramid, and for the prism, one side will be left uncovered. Okay, let's take a look at this one. Again, I'm going to think of it as a prism because I see rectangles everywhere. So let's just say here are your top and bottom. Okay, and it's a 4-sided base shape. So there should be 1, 2, 3, 4 rectangles coming off of it. Yep, and that base shape was a rectangle, so we can call it a rectangular prism, and you would be correct. However, if you look at this, these actually look identical in size, right? So like I could be more specific than a rectangle. I could say that that's a square prism, and if it's a square prism, a more specific name for that is called a cube. Okay, so if you ever see the word cube, that means that it was a square prism, okay? Or a rectangular prism that was made up of only squares, okay? But we would accept either name for this one, okay? Unlike number 5, this one, there's only one correct name. I couldn't call this a cube because these aren't all the same shape, right? Yes, they're all rectangles, but they're not all squares. And let's make sure that this actually is, I'm jumping ahead of myself, is it a rectangular prism, or is it number 3? It's not actually a solid figure. There wasn't enough. Well, let's take a look. Okay. I know it's probably a prism or nothing at all because it's not possible to be a pyramid because there's no triangular sides. So let's say this and this is my two bases. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. So there should be 1, 2, 3, 4 rectangles coming off of it. Yep. So it is indeed a prism, and it's a rectangular prism because those were my two bases. Remember that you're always welcome to pause the video, try to see if you can name these yourself first, and then unpause it and see if you got it right. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and say, what if these are my two bases? So if this is a prism, let's see, it has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. So 1, 2, 3, 4 rectangles coming off of it. Sure does. So that is a rectangular prism. This one is a little bit trickier. Okay, I mean, I see triangles, so maybe pyramid, but I also see squares. Well, if it was a pyramid, it would be all triangular sides, and there would only be one base shape that is not a triangle. So it can't be a pyramid. Okay, so I'm going to say prism, but maybe it's a number 3 scenario where this shape actually can't happen. Well, if it's a prism, I need two of the same shape, okay? And then all the rest would be rectangular sides. So if I pick like these two for my bases, that doesn't work because these aren't all rectangular sides. So maybe this and this are my two bases. And if those are my two bases, then I would say triangular prism, okay? Because prism, because I was looking for two bases, and my two bases are triangles, so triangular prism. But let's just double check. Maybe it's not actually a solid figure. Okay. My base shape has 3 sides, so there should be 1, 2, 3 rectangles coming off. Perfect, it is a triangular prism. Okay, and then there's this one. There's only rectangles coming off, so we'd say possibly a prism. And let's say this and this is my top and bottom, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, so 1, 2, 3, 4 rectangular sides or faces coming off of it. Yep. So rectangular prism. However, if you look more closely at this, these actually aren't all different sizes. They're all the same size, which means they're all squares. So we could also refer to that as, you guessed it, a cube. Okay. They could give you a net drawing and you have to either say, is it even possible to make a shape with that? Or if it is, go ahead and name it. Okay. And that's very useful to know and master that, because sometimes when you're asked to find the surface area, you need to draw the net shape yourself. And so if you know what makes up a net shape, then you can yourself draw one. Okay, so number 9 says, describe the shapes of the faces needed to construct a rectangular pyramid. Okay, so a rectangle, so I know that I need a rectangle. And it's a pyramid, so there's only one of those rectangles, and then all the sides coming off, there's going to be triangular sides. And how many? Well, my base shape, so one base, and it's 4-sided figure, so 4 triangular sides. So I can just draw 4 triangles coming off of that rectangle. And hopefully you are a much better drawer than me. Okay, so it said describe the shapes. Okay, so I drew it to help me get a visual. There's one rectangle and then 4 triangles. Okay, so again, just double check. A pyramid means only one base, and then the sides are triangles, and however many sides your base shape has, that's how many triangular sides are going to come off. Perfect. Okay, let's take a look at number 10. Number 10 says, describe the shapes of the faces needed to construct a triangular prism. Okay, so a prism has rectangular sides, and it's going to have however many your base shape has. So 3 rectangular sides, and since it's a prism, it has 2 bases that are each triangles. So I'm going to draw a triangle, and then 3 rectangles coming off of it. So here's 1, 2, 3, and then I need my other triangle. So maybe I'll just draw it right there. And there you go. So you have 2 triangles. Okay, those are your 2 bases, and then 3 rectangular sides. Check. Okay, so 2 triangles and 3 rectangles. And those were the shapes that will make up a triangular prism. Draw a net for a square pyramid. Okay, well, they said the word square, so let's draw a square. And pyramid means there's only one of those, and that there's triangular sides. How many triangular sides? Well, how many sides does your base shape have? 4, so draw 4 triangles coming off. And all these triangles should be the exact same size because your base shape is the same. It's a square, okay? So like that. Draw a net for a rectangular prism, okay? So I should have rectangular sides. How many rectangular sides? Well, there's a rectangular base, so 4, and then it's a prism, so 2 bases. So I should have a total of 6 rectangles. And however you want to do that, there's a bunch of examples up here. I think the easiest is I just draw 4 rectangles, you know, and you have here. So there's always 2 that are the same and 2 that are the same, but like you don't have the 2 that are the same right next to each other, unless it was a cube. And then you have your top and bottom coming off of it somewhere. Excuse me. Okay, so like that. All right. So now hopefully you are a little bit stronger at either drawing out nets to help you figure out surface area, or from a net drawing, naming what it is yourself. Okay. Congratulations on mastering yet again another standard of solids and their nets.